Hi everyone, and today I'm taking a look at another lens from Fuji's XF range. In fact, I hear this is the most commonly sold lens of their whole line, the Fuji XF 27mm f2.8. It will only work with Fuji's mirrorless X series of cameras, and it's one of the least expensive optics for that system, costing around £250 or $350 US. It doesn't get much cheaper than that in Fuji land, I'm afraid. Its design philosophy is immediately obvious. It's a pancake lens, one of the smallest I've seen, and it's available in black or silver, meaning your camera system can be both extremely small and color coordinated. Its 27mm focal length is the full frame equivalent of 41mm, making it a perfect standard focal length, reasonably wide, but with a reasonably good emphasis on your subject too. It's a good focal length for general purposes, leave on your camera shooting, or street photography. The lens has a maximum aperture of f2.8, which is reasonably fast. It lets in about twice as much light as a typical zoomable kit lens, so that's good, and it can give you noticeably more out of focus backgrounds too. It's not an amazingly wide aperture by any means, but f2.8 is certainly helpful, and you can't really expect much more from such a tiny optic. The lens itself may be small, but it has very nice build quality, being based on a metal lens mount and feeling nice and solid, while managing to weigh less than 100 grams. That's quite impressive. The filter thread for this lens is a very tiny 39mm. Fuji's XF lenses normally have an aperture control ring built into them, but this one is a bit too small for that, so you'll have to control your aperture using your camera. Not a problem, really. The only control on the lens is the focus ring for manual focus, should you wish to manually focus. It's electronically connected to the focus motor and works reasonably well, although trying to manually focus on a Fuji camera lens never seems to be as responsive as, say, on a Canon camera. The lens's autofocus motor makes a little noise, but it's quite fast, as you can see here. If you're shooting video, then your camera will pick up that focus motor noise with any changes in either autofocus or manual focus mode. So combined with the lens's lack of image stabilization, this is not a good option for video work. Aside from that though, the lens is nice and simple and small, and it just works. Now it's time to see about image quality on a 24 megapixel Fuji X-T2 camera. At f2.8 and in the middle of the picture, the lens is extremely sharp with very good contrast. The corners of the image are also very sharp, if not quite as punchy as in the middle. There's a tiny improvement at f4, but they really come alive at f5.6. They remain as sharp at f8, after which the effect of diffraction will start to soften things down slightly. So, it's a very sharp lens indeed, giving punchy images no matter what you do. It's the sharpest lens I've tested so far on the Fuji system. The lens is also able to focus as closely as about 35 centimeters. Not bad, but it's hardly a macro lens. Still, close-up image quality is great, even straight from f2.8, as you can see here. When it comes to working against bright lights, with this pancake lens you'll see quite a drop in contrast here, and there is some gentle but plentiful flaring too. And finally, bokeh. As a wide-angle f2.8 lens on an APS-C camera, it can't get you the most out-of-focus backgrounds in the world. When you are close enough to your subject to get some bokeh though, generally it looks pretty nervous and unpleasant, with strong shapes showing lots of outlining. I guess smooth bokeh just wasn't a priority for Fuji with this lens. But aside from that, as you can probably tell, optically, the Fuji 27mm f2.8 is very impressive. It's fantastically sharp, even on a 24 megapixel camera with good colours and contrast, and it's so tiny, it can really make your camera quite seriously portable, particularly with Fuji's smaller cameras. It's not a very creative lens, but it is extremely handy. At £250, it's a touch overpriced, I feel. But if you bought into the Fuji system, then you will have realised already your need for deep pockets to support your new hobby. At the end of the day, it's a great addition to the Fuji lineup and deserves its popularity. Recommended.